Hello and welcome to another episode of Community Connections. I'm your host, Kevin Bargender. Today I'm joined by Stacey Klein, a Republican candidate for U.S. Senator, and she's also currently on our Trempealeau County Board as a supervisor. She's running against the Democratic incumbent, Tammy Baldwin. Welcome to our studio for the first time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. So what prompted you to run for U.S. Senate?
So, a couple things. I was actually approached by the same people who approached me about running for the county board. But I was always brought up in an environment that was teaching us to serve. So I have 3 siblings who are all military since 2003. That's not a route that I was able to take because I've had multiple heart surgeries from congenital heart defects. So my health is really good right now, but I've just always had a strong desire to serve. And I love what we do on the county board. I love working with the community in that capacity, and this was a great opportunity that came up.
And how long have you been involved in politics?
So officially, I joined our county Republican Party 2 years ago, and then I started on the county board in April of 2022.
Awesome. And what kind of changes would you like to make if you were elected to the U.S. Senate?
Sure. So 2 main things come to mind. One, as we're traveling, we're finding a lot of people feel that they're in flyover country, and then they don't see their elected representatives as much as they'd like to, or feel that their voice is heard. So that's going to be a big focus for us to get around the state. We have a 72-county strategy in place, so we were working on that, having those one-on-one conversations, the small group conversations, and then second, really looking at the financial state of our country, and I think that's not unknown to everyone around, but it really frustrates me that for local governments, we have to stay within the tax levy. The states have to balance their budgets, and then we get to the federal level, and that just seems to go out the window. And then it's also quite frustrating being in local government, where we have to. We send so much money to the federal level, and then we fight through grants and other programs to get this money back, and then it comes back with restrictions, and it's really hard for us to do what we need to do with that money. So that would be it'd be a lot of work. We'd have to get a lot of good people in place to be able to make those big changes, but to look at the different departments, programs that we have at the federal level, how can we cut out that middleman and just keep that money at the state and local level where it can be used in the most efficient and effective way.
And you recently announced your candidacy. How's the campaign gone so far?
Yeah, it's been good. We've been around to multiple counties throughout the state. I've been to a number of events. People are really energized to see someone younger looking to take this step in leadership. Right now, the Senate, I think the average age is about 63, and I'm an old millennial, so we definitely need more people of our generation to step up. But people are also gravitating towards someone who's more like them, someone who I don't have the ability to self-fund, so we're going to have to do a lot of grassroots type of work that way, but understanding what it's like in these economic times where even going to the grocery store is a little more challenging, or filling your gas tank, all of those things. And people are ready for someone who's more relatable and real to go to Washington and act on their behalf.
And what was it like when you announced your candidacy?
It was kind of interesting that way because I had planned it for September 16th. I think that was that Saturday. And I was setting up my website and needed to file with the FEC in order to connect a site that would allow donations to be given through the website. So I just went ahead and filed on September 13th, and immediately my phone was ringing for just brief interviews with like the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, AP, and whatnot. So it was a little bit of a whirlwind at first, and then we had the actual event out at Champions in Galesville on the 16th, and we had a good showing there. And so it's just, it was nice to be able to talk about it because we had told a number of people, we had visited a number of counties and just said, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing, just keep it under wraps, and now we can go full force with it.
Awesome. Yeah, and one of our local shows that talks about state politics, WISI, Weekend Rewind, they brought you up as well. So that was kind of when I learned of your candidacy. So it's kind of cool that it's not just a few local media outlets, it's pretty much everywhere around the state.
Yeah. Well, and even on a national scale, because at this point, there's still, the Republican Party hasn't, and during primaries, they don't fully get behind a certain candidate until the state convention and do endorsements and whatnot. So it went national as well, because there are a lot of eyes on this race. Tammy Baldwin has been there I think she's been in Washington a total of 24 years, and she's one of the most far left leaning there, and Wisconsin's more of a purple state, so we know this is a major battleground state, not only for the presidency, but then for this race as well. So it'll be interesting to see how much more reporting is done and what that looks like.
So what are you kind of doing to help you prepare yourself for this run?
Sure. So I think of it similar to a job interview, where, how can I prepare myself to be the best possible candidate and then represent Wisconsin in the best possible ways. So a couple things. So I've been basically put myself back to school, learning exactly what does the Senate do in correlation with the House, what duties and responsibilities, capabilities do the senators have. I don't want to be the type of candidate that goes out there and says, I promise this and that, and then I get into the position and it turns out I can't even touch any of those things. So learning procedures, just every aspect of that. But then we've also been visiting a large number of counties, different events, just where I can get my name out there, speak with people, like I said, one-on-one or small groups. And then we're also focusing on the fundraising piece, because like I said, I'm not in the position to self-fund. There's things I can do on my own in the beginning here, but ultimately we know what this is going to take. We're not naive to the amount of money we're going to have to raise in order to be competitive in this race. So those are the three main areas that we're looking at.
Good. And what else have you heard about the other candidates that are also running for the same position?
Yep. So there's one other gal that has announced, Rajani Ravindran, and she's from Stevens Point. I have seen her at a couple of events just in the last week, and she's very nice, very passionate. And then there are talks of a couple of wealthy businessmen getting into the race as well. And I had the opportunity to meet both of them last Saturday. We all got to speak to a decent-sized crowd there. So very different styles of potential leadership. And that's where it's really challenging me to make sure that I'm doing all I can to learn as much as I possibly can and meet as many people and have those conversations so that I can stand out as the best possible candidate for us.
Does it feel like there's some mutual support among other Republican candidates as well?
Yeah, are you speaking like specifically the U.S. Senate race?
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a really big push right now. You've probably seen where the Republican Party itself, there's division there. That's something we need to work on as a party, and making sure that we're not going on the negative side of things and that we're supporting each other, because we're all really passionate about what needs to be done to keep our country moving forward, how we need to preserve this type of living for our children and grandchildren. And so far it's been good. It's very early. We've just been briefly introduced, but I think ultimately there's going to be a lot of support all around.
Awesome. And do you plan on running again in the spring for county board?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I love being on the county board.
Awesome. And this will just be your second term too.
Right. Yep.
If you would win both your county seat back in the spring and the U.S. Senate race, would you stay on the county board, try to do both, or would you drop? Would you resign from the county board? Yeah,
that's a really good question, because that's something I've looked into, because in Wisconsin you can hold dual office, and I just haven't stumbled across the right place yet to find out for sure if that's possible with a federal office like U.S. Senate. As much as I would love to be able to do both, I anticipate that being a U.S. Senator is going to be so consuming and demanding of my time and energy that I wouldn't be able to adequately represent my district on the county board. So I'll run in the spring, to no matter what happens with the U.S. Senate race, and so that we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
So what are you looking forward to most as we approach this 2024 fall election cycle?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about this yesterday, because having someone approach me about running in a local race has made a tremendous impact in my life, my family's life. My husband is on our town board. My daughter gets to see, she gets a really good civics education through all of this. And so going forward in 2024, I really look forward to, people that are getting involved and looking at, okay, maybe I could be a school board member, or I could run for my town board, or maybe I could be a poll worker. Just looking at, I think as Americans overall, besides a small percentage, we've become so far removed from being involved in civics the way we really should be and we can be, that this gives opportunity for more people to step up. And there's a lot of opportunity for self-growth there. And then, like I said, also just getting more of that civics education in the real world.
Is there anything else you want voters to know about you today?
Yeah, sure. I touched on it, I think I might have briefly, being an old millennial, but my generation's going to inherit this country. That torch is going to be passed, and the state of the country, the good, the bad, the ugly, the debt, all of it. So at some point, and I think now is a time where our age demographic really needs to get involved, and there's a lot of work to be done. There's so much that we need to do going forward. Like I said, if we want to preserve this country as we know it for like my daughter, if I have grandchildren, all of that. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to, come on the show and have a little bit of a conversation. And I just look forward to getting out to more people and chatting and seeing what's going on in their lives and how, as a U.S. Senator, I'd be able to help that.
Awesome. Well, we'd like to thank you for coming down to their studio today. And for Stacey Klein, I'm your host, Kevin Bargender. We'll see you next time on Community Connections.